Hi there, it's George here from Create Music, and in this video I'll be helping you understand chord boxes. Now, chord boxes will be appearing in our Create Music workbooks every time that we're playing a chord song. And a chord is just something on guitar where we're playing lots of strings together. And because we're playing lots of strings together, that will often mean we're needing to use more than one finger because we are going to be playing different shapes as we move down the strings. So something like this. So as you could see there, I was using 3 fingers in that particular example, and I was moving around different strings and also different frets. And the frets are going to be the boxes that we can see moving down our guitar. The other thing we can play on guitar are called notes, and that's when we're playing one string at a time, something like this. We now have an example of a chord box up on the screen, and this is displaying an E minor chord, a chord that sounds like this. So quite dark and sad sounding, this one, and it's a good place to start for playing your guitar chords in general, this one, because it's fairly simple to get, and also reading it on a chord box isn't too difficult either. Now we need to understand how this chord box is actually representing our guitar. So how I'm going to do this is I'm going to turn my guitar so the head is facing the ceiling like this, and hopefully that makes it a bit more clear straight away. Because on the chord box we have, again, the first few frets of our guitar, and I'm going to highlight those now going down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just how you're looking at my guitar now, that's how it's been shown. And then we've got these 6 lines as well going up on our chord box, and they're going to be the strings of our guitar. So going left to right we have E, A, D, G, B and E, and there are string names. Easy way to remember these is by saying the sentence elephants and dogs grow big ears, which is the way that we like to teach it. But straight away, just from turning my guitar like this and explaining it in that manner, hopefully it makes it clearer straight away. The last thing we're going to be looking at, and the main thing, is going to be those black dots. And because chord boxes are very, very visual, what we are really doing here is we're just working out where those black dots are within these first 5 frets. When looking at a chord box, we need to be working through a checklist that goes which fret, which string, and which finger. We need to make sure we're getting these 3 things correct when playing a chord, otherwise it won't be getting played in the correct way, or it won't sound the way it's meant to. So going to the first thing, which fret, we're going to look at our chord box now and just check if these black dots are in fret number 1 on our guitar, our first box. And we can see here, there aren't any black dots in this first one. So we know straight away, no fingers are going to go here. We're going to move along over that metal wire on our guitar into fret number 2. I'm going to check the chord box, and we can see that both of these black dots land inside fret number 2. So straight away we know our fingers are going to be in this fret. Now, because there are 2 black dots, that tells us that we are using 2 fingers for this chord. If we looked at a chord box before figuring out anything and we could see 3 black dots or 4 black dots, we should be able to know straight away that we are going to be using either 3 or 4 fingers for those chords, depending on how many dots we can see on it. So because we can only see 2 here, we're going to be using 2 fingers. And they're in fret number 2 as we've just looked. And the next thing moving along is which string. So we're going to look at the lines going up now to the strings, and we're going to go to our first string here, which is the E string of our guitar, and again we can't see any black dots on this first string, so we're going to move along to the next one, our A string, and there we go, we have a black dot there in fret number 2 on the A string, and that is the first note we're going to play in this chord. Going along to the next one, our D string, our 3rd string down, we can see again we have another black dot. So the strings we're going to be using to play an E minor are going to be our A and our D string, or our 2nd and 3rd string of our guitar working downwards. So really, in terms of where we put our fingers, we've already figured this one out. We know that both of our fingers are going to be inside fret number 2, and they're going to be on the A and the D string. The last thing to look at is which fingers are we going to use, and that's what those numbers at the bottom of the chord box are going to be for. We can see we have a 2 underneath the first dot and a 3 underneath the second dot. And this is telling us which fingers on our hand to play this with. When we hold our hand up like this, we have finger number 1, which is our pointing finger, and then 2, 3, and 4. We don't count our thumb, as this goes behind the neck of the guitar and we're playing, so we only have 4 fingers to play with. So if we saw 2 and 3 underneath the chord box, we know that our 2nd finger and our 3rd finger are going to be used, so our middle fingers here for this chord. If I turn my guitar back around now and put everything onto my guitar's neck, I'm going to go through my checklist again. So which fret? I know I'm going to be in fret number 2, so I'm going to be here. And then which strings? I'm going to be on my 2nd string, my A string, and my third string, the D string. But the last thing is the fingers, of course. So how I'm playing it right now, it will sound like an E minor, but I still need to swap my fingers around. I need to make sure that I'm using my middle fingers here. So I'm going to swap those two notes here, make sure that my second finger is on the A string and my third finger is on the D string. And there we go. It sounds the same. And the reason why we play an E minor like this is because it makes it a lot easier later on when we're learning extra chords where we need that first finger here to be available in our first box. The last part of a chord box to understand are the symbols that we can see on top of the strings. Now these symbols will appear on top of strings that don't have any black dots. We are always going to be playing the strings with black dots on top. On the E minor chord, of course, we had the second string down the A and the third string down the D. We need to hear those notes. But the chord box is telling us if we can or if we can't play the extra 4 strings we have on the guitar. So on the E minor chord, that would be the E string, the G string, the B string and the E string at the bottom, the high E. Because all of these symbols are circles, this circle is indicating yes, we can play every string on our guitar other than the black dot. So when we play an E minor, we can take our pick or our thumb and we can play all the way down the strings from the top to the bottom. If we weren't allowed to play one of these extra strings that we call open strings, then there'd be an X on top of it. So an example of one of those chords is on the screen now. This is called an A chord. So if we check those symbols on the top there, we can see we have an X on the top string or the E string of our guitar. So for this chord, we are not going to be playing the top string. We can see there are 3 black dots there, so straight away we have to be thinking, okay, this is a 3-finger chord. And then quickly we're going to work through our checklist now. All of those black dots are in fret number 2 on our guitar. What strings are they on? They're on the 3rd string down, 4th string down, and the 5th string down. So it's going to look like a little staircase moving down. All of our fingers are going to be stacked on top of each other. Looking underneath the fret box for which fingers we use, there's going to be finger 1, 2, and 3 in this chord. So these 3 fingers all next to each other, all inside fret number 2 on strings 3, 4, and 5, and that makes our A chord. When we now play this with our right hand, we take our, again, thumb or pick from our 2nd string down, and we play every string apart from our low E string.